that's true. Naked Palpatine.
Oh, you pick that one. Fresh out of the clone tank, nude Palpatine is my
Well, that's the first thing I think of when you say Dark Empire Palpatine.
Hello everybody. Don't mind this. I was attacked by the Hounds of Shadow, and so therefore, by Hounds of Shadow I mean my dog, because my dog is annoying. And with my dog, you can't hug your own mother without him freaking out, so this is my reward. So, but if anybody asks, it was the Hounds of Shadow. Now, as of recording this, you're watching this way later, but as of me recording this, it is the final day of the first month of 2025 in January, January 31st. And today we're talking about Dancers Lament by Ian C Esslemont, the first book in the Path to Ascendancy series. Now, at the time of recording this, the Carconis trilogy has still not been finished. It is being written as of Stephen Erickson's Facebook page. He's finished the second book, which is now a 4-book series, which was originally a 3-book series, of his sequel series to Malazan Book of the Fallen, and he is 200 pages in to Walk in Shadow, or whatever it's called. And so that is going to be the 3rd book of the Carconis trilogy, but the reason I'm not discussing it this week is because it doesn't exist at the moment of recording. And as soon as it does come out, I will, of course, drop everything, reread the first 2 Carconis books, review the 3rd Carconis book, and then do all the Path to Ascendancy books again, and then read all of Book of the Fallen again. So, fun times to be had once that's all finished. But, because I don't have the 3rd Carconis book, we're jumping ahead in time to the prequel series set before the main series of Malazan Book of the Fallen. Non-spoiler-wise, it's in the title. I don't think it's much of a spoiler to say, but we follow 2 characters. Well, we follow 3 characters. We follow Doran. We follow a couple characters, but the primary ones are Doran, Wu, and Ikko, or Ikto. I don't even know. But Doran will later be Dancer, and Wu will later be Kelvend. Or if you want to go further, Cotillion and Shadow Throne. But we're not there yet. So for now, we have these 2 characters. Kind of wacky mage and this assassin. Now, one thing that's immediately apparent about this series is that these characters are not... This first book did not go the way I expected it to go. You can't allow whatever preconceived notions you might have for what a prequel should be to influence what it is. But ultimately, I think Ian C Esslemont and Stephen Erickson have such a firm grasp on this world that even though it's not what you expected, it feels absolutely right, if that makes sense. And it is so interesting to see the world after Carconis, but also before the Book of the Fallen, because it is super unique and interesting to read about. The city of Lehang, or the opposing force of the Canis people and them invading, and then the Protectress being in charge of, being the lead mage in charge of the city. All that's like really fascinating and interesting to learn about. And then, of course, Doran and Wu. I guess Wu's kind of what I expected. I mean, Shadow Throne's not the most rational seeming person at first glance. And I mean, Dancer's kind of stuck up, but that kind of makes sense, right? Like, of course, when you were writing earlier versions of characters, they can't be the same, and there's sort of brilliance to the way that it's written. They're like, It's not what I was expecting, but it makes perfect sense. So it ultimately works out in the end. But it's just really fun. It's not taken super seriously. It's just a fun ride. And Esslemont has certainly found his stride. Whatever gripes I may have had with the novels The Malazan Empire, none exist here. It is just straight sailing all the way through. A lot of fun. And I really have no gripes to say about it. But Doran is trying to find this kooky mage, and the mage wants him to be partners, so they kind of have a mutual interest there. And Wu kind of wants to be in control of the city. Will he succeed? Not really. There's not even at this point in time any plans to be emperor. He just wants control of the city. So, and by the end of this book, they still are not in charge of anything. So, how will they get there? I guess we'll have to wait and find out. But overall, non-spoiler wise, I think it's phenomenal. Really, really fun. Definitely not as dense as Carconis. So if you couldn't get behind that, or you just want a different pace, this is right up there for you. I love Carconis, but this is a nice, just fun jaunt through the world without having to feel like my brain is working overdrive to make sure I comprehend everything. So overall, seal of approval from me. If you don't want spoilers, here's your warning. Be back in just a moment. Now, it seems like we open up a flash forward because we got Thief Queen, Lady Apsalar. Now remember, Sari will go under that moniker later, so that's fun. Doran, who will later be Dancer. I mean, it's not really a spoiler, so that's why I said it in the non-spoiler review, because that's the title of the book, and it's obvious when you read them, the dialogue, who these two people are. Then this Dalhanese mage, Wu, who will later be Calaved, and then we got Gothos, who makes a short little appearance. Meet a girl named Yelahara, who's she's really good with animals and birds, and Doran takes a liking to her. We're in the city of Lehang, which we didn't get too much about. The other place to go to is Unta, which I haven't been to yet, but of course, capital. Those are places that would later be kind of the hubs of the Malazan Empire, or Unta would be. Lehang is kind of like this other place, but it's all part of the Malazan Empire by the time of the Book of the Fallen. We have these Nightblades of Ikto Khan, who again are kind of these servants of Canis, which is a warring faction to Lehang, and Lehang's filled with a bunch of gang members and stuff. It's kind of like Crime City, like Gotham City, There's a nice little scene between Yelahara, and this is how you kind of, if you didn't get it by this point, then you get it now, where Yelahara calls Doran. She says, "Have a care, my dancer." We also meet Silk, who I think is a new character, and Silk's pretty fun, an interesting character. Starts off pretty egotistical, and is rather humbled. Smoking Coral. Smokey sounds familiar. I think they were in novels of the Malazan Empire. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong about that. Now, here's a big thing that I want to say non-spoiler. The Protectress, who is the queen of the city, she's the head mage. Protectress. Tress. It is Triss from the Carconis trilogy. So another beautiful thing about this is there's a lot of synergy between the two prequel series, which I think is really cool. We also meet the leader of the Crimson Guard currently, who is, what's his name? I thought I wrote it down. I guess I didn't. But it is Cause Devore's father, who Cause Devore is also in this story, so interesting. Rena is saved by Doran as she's being attacked by these guys. We also get a small scene between the Errant and Kroll, who, of course, the Errant would appear in Midnight Tides and a few other places. We also get a slight mention that Doran/Dancer was sold by his father when he was young, which is kind of rough. Doran also has a set of principles. There's certain things he's not willing to do, and that's very apparent in this book, which is just kind of cool, because he is an assassin, he kills people, but there is a principles that he'll live by. We also get to see Chalamet, who is also from other series, and Silk as they go on the Seti Plains. Also, Wu the Mage is good at hiding in shadows. In fact, we get, and then every interaction between Doran and Wu is just incredible, really. Wu's Warren. So there's a whole section where Doran and Wu are getting attacked by this dinosaur-like creature in the Realm of Shadow, or I think they're in the Realm of Shadow. They're in a warren, and Wu doesn't know how to fully control it yet. Whether or not he ever learns to fully control it is debatable, but of course this is the beginnings of what would be Shadow Throne. Also, very, very small mention, but Bowden, the man who saves Felison, also does some nasty things to her. We don't need to bring that back up. We could, if you want to talk about Deadhouse Gates, we can talk about Deadhouse Gates, but, then he sacrifices himself for her. Small cameo here, which was kind of cool. Jaghut warns Doran and Wu not to work with the Azanthani, who in this, I guess it's been a couple thousand years, but they've dropped the Azanthani title and are just the Azaf now. Oh, I did write it. Corian, the Red Duke, is the father to Kaz. Elora is blinded and beaten, and this sets Doran on the path of revenge. We also get to see Dassam Ulter, who, again, will be an important figure in the Malazan Book of the Fallen, and he is kind of like this guard to this, hood temple, currently. Also, a slight cameo from Nightchill, who, dies in Gardens of the Moon, but still. We also learn about Homunculus, which I only have really anything of knowledge of that comes from Fullmetal Alchemist, the anime. But essentially clones. Because Ho, the mage, is making clones of himself, and it's called the Ritual of Divers, which we know divers or divers or whatever they're called from Book of the Fallen. And the only way to kill them for sure is beheadings or burning, so like zombies. Chaminade and the mages end the book in charge of the city. Wu and Dancer tried to, but they failed. They're outnumbered, and so they bail from Lahang because they lost. But they were going to show Triss mercy. So in turn, when they got upper-handed, she showed them mercy and allowed them to go into exile. So they're leaving. Durin then officially changes his name to Dancer, and we get a slight cameo from Shimmer. And that's eventually all the highlights I decided to write. The whole book's fun, but those were some of the big things I wrote down. Anyway, Dancer, and I guess still Wu at this time, are still not who they will be. So it'll be interesting to see how we get there. I've seen the dramatic personas for the first 3 books, and by the 3rd book they do have their names. So I imagine they're either in charge by the end of book 2, or at least are into their personas. But I guess we'll see. The next time we talk, it'll be about Deadhouse Landing. We'll see you then.